against the USSR. And all that keeps Britain from starvation and capitulation are supplies from Canada and neutral USA. This video is sponsored by Call of War. Call of War is a free online PvP strategy game that immerses you in World War II. Choose a real nation to lead and take on up to 100 players in real-time matches that can take weeks to complete. Build your army with a wide range of units and secret weapons, from tanks to planes and even nuclear bombs. Declare war on your neighbors or forge strategic alliances with other players. Your moves and decisions can change the course of history. You can play anywhere, anytime on your PC or mobile, so you won't miss an important battle. Click on the link in the description and you'll get an exclusive gift: 13,000 gold and 1 month free premium subscription. This offer is only available for 30 days, so claim it before it's gone forever. U-boats have wreaked havoc, sinking 10,000 tons of shipping a month. But now, the Germans have their sights on a knockout blow to cripple the transatlantic merchant fleet with a concentrated destruction of convoys using battleships. They've already tested the theory. March 1941, Operation Berlin used 2 mighty battleships, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, to destroy and capture 22 merchant vessels without loss. Now, with Barbarossa just weeks away, mastermind of the Berlin operation, Admiral Gunther Lütjens, is tasked with a repeat operation, but on an even bigger and more decisive scale. Operation Rheinübung will be the concentrated hammer blow to force Britain out of the war. Lütjens' ambition is to add to the range and power of Scharnhorst and Gneisenau with the brand new state-of-the-art Tirpitz and her sister ship Bismarck, the most powerful battleships ever constructed. But Lütjens has 2 problems. After Operation Berlin, they know the Royal Navy will anticipate a repeat raid and deploy their entire Atlantic fleet to try and stop them. The second problem is more serious. Tirpitz's crew is still being trained, while Bismarck has never been tested in battle. Scharnhorst is in the middle of refitting, and Gneisenau has just been attacked and half sunk in Brest Harbor by British aircraft. Lütjens wants to delay the raid until Scharnhorst and Tirpitz are ready. But that won't be until July, after the invasion of Russia has begun. Unacceptable to the Führer. Lütjens is ordered to proceed with just the 2 ships he has, the untested Bismarck, supported by the cruiser Prinz Eugen. Bismarck is the most formidable weapon in the German Navy. 240 meters long and at 49,000 tons, she is also one of the fastest, capable of 30 knots, and armed with 8 15-inch guns, one of the deadliest. At 212 meters long, Prinz Eugen looks only slightly smaller, but is half the weight of Bismarck, and with 8 8-inch guns, has much less formidable firepower. Bismarck and Prinz Eugen, plus 3 destroyers, lie low in Norway, ready to venture into the North Atlantic. Lütjens knows the British naval base in Scapa Flow is between him and his ultimate destination, an area of the Atlantic between Allied Greenland and Iceland, where the convoys will be furthest from air support. These will be Lütjens' hunting grounds. That night, a single RAF Spitfire slips through Lütjens' air defenses and takes a decisive photograph of the Bismarck at anchor. At Scapa Flow, a task force is hurriedly assembled under Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland to intercept and destroy the Germans before they can reach the convoys. But the Germans realize they've been rumbled. The next day, when a Royal Navy aircraft flies over the same fjord, it finds it empty of ships. Bismarck and Prinz Eugen have slipped the net. The British are caught on the hop. At midnight that night, Vice Admiral Holland leads his task force out in hot pursuit. Holland has more ships than Lutyens, but only 4 capable of catching Bismarck. The state-of-the-art battleship King George V, the old battle cruiser Repulse with aircraft carrier Victorious are blocking a breakout through the Iceland-Faroes Gap, leaving Holland 2 capital ships supported by cruisers and destroyers to form his pursuit fleet. Built in 1939, Prince of Wales is the newest battleship in the British fleet, 227 metres long and 45,000 tons. Her main armament are 10 powerful new 14-inch guns. And with a top speed of 30 knots, she is a fast and formidable weapon. But Prince of Wales's turrets have had teething problems, and she sets sail without being fully battle-ready, with civilian workmen on board. On paper, Holland's most formidable weapon is his flagship HMS Hood, pride of the Royal Navy. When she was built at the height of World War I, Hood was a brand new concept in warship design, the battlecruiser, combining the speed of a cruiser with the size and firepower of a battleship. At 46,000 tons, with 8 15-inch guns and a speed of 32 knots. But to gain her speed, she has sacrificed heavy armor on her decks, making her vulnerable to a falling shot fired from distance. Holland is confident Hood is capable of knocking out the Germans in a straight fight. But first, he has to find them. Lutyens knows the Royal Navy will be guarding the most direct routes to the Atlantic. But he has a head start on his pursuers, and so takes a safer, northerly route towards his hunting grounds. To reach them, Lutyens' ships must pass through a 180-mile wide gap called the Denmark Strait. And that gap is constricted by pack ice and British minefields, leaving a navigable channel just 40 miles wide. Holland knows about this bottleneck and has planned ahead. He sends 2 British cruisers, HMS Norfolk and Suffolk, as lookouts to patrol either edge of the narrow strip of water, while Holland leads his task force to cut off their exit route to the Atlantic. Making their way from North America, heading for the Atlantic, are 11 convoys, including a troop convoy of 20,000 men. Lutyens' orders are to sink merchant ships, not get into battle with a larger British force. He knows if he can slip into the Atlantic undetected, his enemy will have a hard time finding and catching him before he can wreak havoc on the convoys. What Lutyens doesn't know is that the Royal Navy is waiting for him. As the last light in the sky is fading, a lookout on board Suffolk sees the 2 German Behemoths as they materialize out of a heavy snowstorm. Just 7 miles away, well within gun range. Suffolk immediately transmits a sighting report to the Admiralty, before quickly turning away toward the coast of Iceland and into a fog bank to avoid a suicidally unequal battle. Suffolk then comes astern of the German ships to shadow them on radar. On board Bismarck, German radio operators pick up the sighting report from Suffolk and advise their own high command. Admiral Lutyens is shocked he's been discovered so easily and has little intelligence on what size of force he might be facing. Meanwhile, Norfolk approaches from the east. Bismarck's captain, Lindemann, opens fire on Norfolk from just 6 miles. One shell from Bismarck's 15-inch guns bounces off the ocean surface and hits Norfolk's bridge. The blast disables Norfolk's forward radar. Like Suffolk, she races for the fog bank and safety. 300 miles to the southeast, the message is received by Holland. Bismarck sighted and leading the Prinz Eugen. But unknown to Holland, that order is crucially about to change. The percussion from Bismarck's opening salvo, her first fired in action, has knocked out Bismarck's own forward-looking radar. So Lutyens orders Prinz Eugen to take the lead, to act as pathfinder for the fleet. Suffolk, following at a safe distance, is now the only eyes on the German fleet for Admiral Holland. Those eyes are radar only, 2 indistinct marks on a screen. On board Hood, using Suffolk's report, Holland plans a
Prepare the
classic
command post to
intercept.
help restore
He will
this
get ahead
GDI
of the
base to
Germans
full
and turn
operational
across
capacity.
their path, a tactic called crossing the T. It will allow him to bring all 8 of his 15-inch guns and all 10 of Prince of Wales's 14-inch guns to bear on the front of the approaching enemy, which he assumes to be Bismarck. Bismarck, in turn, will only be able to use her front 4 15-inch guns, and Prince Eugen, none of hers. Holland communicates his plan for both Hood and Prince of Wales to engage Bismarck, leaving Norfolk and Suffolk to take care of Prince Eugen. But then, shortly after midnight, Suffolk loses contact with the Germans, her radar blinded by a dense snowstorm. Holland fears he may lose his target altogether and turns on a new heading to try and close the gap faster. At 2 in the morning, with still no news, Holland turns southwest, hoping to cut off the enemy. An hour later, Suffolk re-sights the 2 German ships. Bismarck apparently leading Prince Eugen on the same course and speed as before. Holland realizes his maneuver has lost time and the chance to get ahead of his enemy and cross their T. Not wanting a night engagement, Holland brings his ships onto a course to intercept the German squadron at first light. Prince of Wales sights the 2 German ships on her radar. Prince Eugen has already picked up the sound of ships with her underwater detection gear 20 miles to the southeast. Then, First Artillery Officer, Captain Lieutenant Paulus Jasper, confirms the sightings and judges the targets to be cruisers. Prince Eugen's captain, Helmut Brinkmann, tells Leutjens about the hostile ships. Only light cruisers, 20 degrees off the
Prepare
port
the
bow.
command post to help
At the
restore
same
this
time,
GDI
Prince
base
of
to full
Wales makes
operational
visual
capacity.
contact at a range of 38,000 yards. The distance is too great to determine which ship is in the lead,
Repairing. Objective
but they
complete.
assume it is
Battlefield
Bismarck.
expanded.
The Germans are still in doubt about the identity of the enemy ships.
Commander, it seems
Brinkmann
Nod has
and
noticed us.
Jasper
They're sending a force to
maintain
destroy
they are
our
only
base.
dealing with cruisers.
Quickly build and deploy
However,
a
others
watchtower
are
base
convinced that
defense
they
from
are
the
facing
support
at
structure
least one
tab.
battleship.
New bonus
Leutjens
objective.
is under orders to avoid contact with British battleships, but orders his men
Building.
to general quarters. The
Unit
distance
under
between
attack.
Holland and his targets is down to
Establishing
26,000
visual
yards,
outpost.
but
All
he
right,
needs to
Commander.
get closer
You need to push
as
forward
quickly
and
as
destroy
possible.
the Nod outpost
He
guarding that
knows
bridge.
an exchange of
I'm sending
fire at long range
reinforcements now.
will expose Hood to a potentially fatal vulnerability.
Incoming transmission.
Plunging fire,
Nod
hitting
presence
his
appears to
lighter
be
deck
minor.
armor.
Eliminate these dangerous
Holland
Nod
needs to
structures.
pass through the critical zone as fast as possible. He orders a turn of 20 degrees
Missile
to
squad
close on the
reinforcements
Germans
have arrived.
faster.
New unit types
This
available
move
for
prevents
training
the
at
British
barracks.
using their rear turrets. But Holland still has 10 heavy guns
On account of the
to
Nod
Bismarck's
presence,
8.
additional squads of
Holland
missile
signals
soldiers have been
Prince of Wales
requisitioned.
Captain John
Missiles are
Leach
much more
to
effective
stay
against
close
structures
and
than
follow
standard
his
GDI
every
rifles.
move.
Training.
He still
Unit
believes that
under
Leach's
attack.
ship is his
Intelligence
prize
data
target.
updated. New bonus objective.
Hood opens fire with her 4 forward 15-inch guns. The target ship is, in fact, Prince Eugen. On Bismarck, the puzzled Lindemann wonder why the British are targeting the smaller ship instead of them. On Prince of Wales, Captain Leach correctly identifies the right-hand ship as Bismarck. He ignores Holland's order and opens fire with his 6 forward 14-inch guns
objective.
at a
Silence
distance of
needed.
26,500 yards, but without a hit. Then, number 1 gun in A turret fails to fire, leaving her only 5 forward guns. Holland finally realizes that Bismarck is behind Prince Eugen and orders a shift of target to the right-hand ship. However,
complete.
this order is never executed, and Hood continues to fire at Prince Eugen.
Bonus objective
German
complete.
guns
Incoming
remain
transmission.
silent.
Further investigation
Bismarck's
of the area
first
is
gunnery
needed.
officer,
Repair the
Adalbert
bridge so that our
Schneider,
troops can cross the
requests
river.
permission to open fire. He receives no reply and calls the bridge.
Engineers have
The
2
British
important
fire
functions.
their third
First,
and
they can
fourth
repair
salvos
structures and
without a hit.
bridges. Second, they
closing.
can capture enemy structures
Still
and
no
tech
answer
buildings,
from Lutyens.
allowing you full control of these
Bismarck
structures.
remains steadily
To
on
do
course.
this, select your
But
engineer
now,
and then
Holland
right-click on the
suddenly
structure you wish
changes
to repair or
tactics in the middle
capture.
of the fight.
New bonus
He
objective.
turns his ships broadside to broadside.
Engineers are not combat units
This
and
maneuver
cannot protect
reveals
themselves.
the silhouettes
Additional
of
engineers
both
can be
his
trained at the
ships
barracks.
to the Germans.
New unit
The
types
Germans
available
now
for training at
identify the
barracks.
battlecruiser Hood
Intelligence
and
data
the
updated.
battleship Prince of Wales. The sight of the two British ships confounds Lutyens.
Building.
German intelligence has reported both to be still in port. Their appearance in the Denmark Strait could mean only one thing. His operation
On
had
hold.
long been discovered. More British ships would
Cancelled.
certainly follow
Construction
and could be
complete.
just
Cancelled.
over the horizon. Lutyens hoists the fire signal. JD. Jot Dora. Brinkmann responds at once, and Prince Eugen opens fire on Hood from 22,100 yards, but scores no hits.
It's all ready.
Finally,
no problem.
Bismarck's 15-inch
Bridge
guns roar into action as Lutyens returns fire
Objective
on Hood
complete.
at a distance
Battlefield
of
expanded.
24,100 yards. But the shells fall ahead of the target. Hood fires her fourth salvo at Prince Eugen, again with no hits. Prince of Wales fires her
Keep your weapon
fifth
ready.
salvo against Bismarck from a distance of
Enemy in
22,100 yards. Prince of Wales's sixth salvo, at a distance of 21,150 yards, scores the first hit on Bismarck. The
Yes,
shell
sir.
tears through her portside bow,
Silos needed.
penetrating through the ship and exiting the starboard bow. The damage causes a huge oil leak and flooding of the forward compartments. At exactly the same time, Prince Eugen scores a first hit on HMS Hood. The shot lands between the second
Building.
funnel and the main mast, near stores of anti-aircraft ammunition and
Routes aboard.
anti-aircraft rockets, starting a fire. Hood fires her fifth and sixth
Construction
salvos
complete.
against Prince Eugen. All miss. Prince of Wales fires her seventh and eighth
Understood.
salvos against the Bismarck. Again, all
I can
miss.
figure it out.
Bismarck's third salvo
I'll
hits
find a way
Hood's
inside.
fire control tower, killing most of the men inside.
New bonus
Hood
objective.
is now without central fire control.
Unit under
A
attack.
shell from Prince
Unit
Eugen's
lost.
sixth salvo lands near the
Move to
base of the
engage.
forward superstructure,
Establishing
starting a
video
second
uplink.
fire.
Those non-vehicles
The distance
present a
between
problem,
the
Commander.
German and British
Build an
ships is
airfield
now
and then
down
some
to
orphans. They are great against
19,700
ground vehicles and good against structures.
This allows
However,
Bismarck to
orphans have
use her
limited
three
ammunition
port
and will return to their
5.9
airfields when they run
guns,
out.
while Prince of Wales'
Keep
four
the fire on
starboard 5.25
'em, boys.
Incoming
Clear to
transmission.
engage.
can now
Orca
also
reinforcements
join
are
the
set to
battle.
arrive soon.
But
You will
it
need
is
to build
Prince
a-
of Wales' ninth 14-inch salvo,
Keep
which
the heat on
scores
'em.
another
Enemy
hit.
in range.
Unit under
The
attack.
shell explodes against the 45mm armoured bulkhead below the waterline.
Coming in clear,
formations.
Commander.
This
We
causes
got 'em.
flooding in the number 4 port electric
right.
plant
Silence
and
needed.
number 2 boiler room. Bismarck is now leaking a conspicuous quantity of oil. 5 minutes after the start of the battle,
Clear to engage.
Lutyens orders Prince Eugen to target
Move up.
Orca
Prince of
reinforcements are
Wales,
set to
firing
arrive
her
soon.
6th
You will
and
need to build
last
an
salvo
airfield
at
in order
Hood,
to maintain any
while
aircraft.
Bismarck fires her 4th
Unit
salvo
under attack.
at Hood.
Unit lost.
None of the shells
Unit
find their
promoted.
target. Prince of Wales prepares to use her Y turret, but one of the guns malfunctions. Meanwhile, above the battle, a short Sunderland flying boat
Low
arrives
power.
from Iceland.
Bonus objective
The
complete.
crew observe 2
Building.
fires on Hood, one at the base of the bridge structure and
Orca
another further
reinforcements are set
aft.
to arrive soon.
Though
You will
burning
need to build
and
an
without
airfield
full
in
fire
order to
control,
maintain any
Hood
aircraft.
fires her 8th and 9th salvos against Prince
Commander,
Eugen.
your base is low on power.
misses.
For additional power, build a
Prince
power
Eugen
plant from your
fires
production
her
tab.
8th and 9th salvos at Prince of Wales. Again, no hits are scored.
Construction
Prince of
complete.
Wales fires her 13th salvo and scores a 3rd hit on Bismarck. But the shell fails to explode.
Orca reinforcements
Hood
are set
fires
to
a
arrive
10th salvo
soon.
at Prince
You will need to
Eugen.
build an airfield in
The
order to
distance
maintain any
now down
aircraft.
to
Building.
15,300 yards. But Hood fails to score a hit. Holland orders another 20-degree
Construction
turn to
complete.
port. Bismarck fires her
Silos
5th
needed.
salvo at Hood.
Building online.
1 minute later, Hood is ripped apart by a sudden
squad
and
ready for
cataclysmic explosion. Only 3 men survived.
Orca reinforcements
Ordinary
are set to
signalman
arrive
Ted
soon.
Briggs,
You will need to build an
able
airfield in
seaman
order to
Robert
maintain
Tilburn,
any aircraft.
and midshipman William John Dundas.
Objective complete.
The rest
New
of Hood's
construction
crew
options.
of 1,418
Training.
men are lost,
I got their codes.
including Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland. No one knows
Incoming transmission.
exactly what
Commander,
caused the
it is imperative
catastrophic,
that you destroy
near
the
instant
base.
destruction of a
Orca ready for liftoff.
48,000-ton battleship.
Each landing pad
The
can only
long-held
sustain
assumption
one
is
air unit.
that a
Each
15-inch
airfield
shell
has
from
4
Bismarck
landing pads.
went through
Once an
Hood's
air unit
thin
has
deck
expended its
armor
ammo
and hit
supply,
her
it must
magazines.
return to its landing pad.
However,
Otherwise,
by 6
it will
a.m.,
crash.
Hood was
codes.
only 17,000 yards from Bismarck. At that distance, heavy shells
got
from
the codes.
both sides were traveling on a lower trajectory. Any shell would strike Hood's belt armor, 12 inches thick,
I
and
got their
superior
codes.
to any ship in the fleet. Another possibility is that a shell detonated
I got
Hood's
their
own
codes.
torpedoes. 4 21-inch Mark IV torpedoes were kept in tubes,
I got their codes.
2 on either side of the main mast. These
On
were
hold.
certainly
Cancelled.
capable of breaking Hood's back, and could have been set off
Missile
either by a
squad ready for
direct hit
combat.
from an
Pilot.
enemy shell, or by an intense fire.
Missile squad ready for combat.
Whatever the cause, the reaction on board
Rifle
Prince of
squad ready.
Wales is utter shock. Leading sick berth attendant
Missile
Sam
squad
Wood
ready for
recalls,
combat.
she disappeared into a big orange flash
Missile
and a
squad ready
huge
for
column
combat.
of smoke which blackened us out. The
Missile
bows
squad ready for
pointed
combat.
out of the smoke. Just the bows tilted up.
Missile squad
And
ready for
then
combat.
this whole apparition slid out of sight.
Missile
all in
squad
slow
ready for
motion.
combat.
Just slid away.
Missile squad ready for
Within
combat.
just 3 minutes, the mighty Hood, pride
Missile
of the Royal
squad ready
Navy,
for combat.
is gone. Prince of Wales is on
Missile
her own
squad
against
ready
the
for
mighty
combat.
Bismarck and Prince Eugen. She had been
Missile squad
about
ready for
1,000
combat.
yards behind Hood when she blew up. To
Missile
avoid
squad
plowing
ready
into
for
debris,
combat.
Leach orders hard turn to starboard.
Missile
But
squad
her
ready
arc
for
turrets
combat.
can no longer bear on the enemy, and several of her forward
Missile
guns are
squad
out
ready
of
for
action.
combat.
On board Bismarck, Lutyens orders a change
Missile
of
squad
target
ready
to
for
Prince of
combat.
Wales. Bismarck hits Prince of
Missile
Wales on her
squad ready for
command tower.
combat.
The shell fails
Keep
to
your weapon
explode,
ready. Missile
but
squad
its
ready for
impact
combat.
kills the crew inside. Realizing his
Missile
perilous
squad ready
situation,
for combat.
Captain Leach ceases
Training.
fire, disengages with
Missile
evasive
squad ready for
maneuvers,
combat.
and
Rifle
turns to
squad
port.
ready.
Prince of Wales lays
Missile
a
squad
smoke
ready for combat.
but a shell from
ready.
Bismarck's salvo still manages to hit her below
Missile
the
squad
water.
ready for combat.
Cancelled.
Miraculously,
Cancelled.
it fails to
Cancelled.
explode.
Missile
But
squad
Prince
ready
of
for
Wales
combat.
is now increasingly at the mercy of the two German ships.
Missile squad ready
Prince
for
Eugen
combat.
fires her 16th and
Rifle squad
17th
ready.
salvos.
Missile squad ready for
Again,
combat.
Prince of
Channels
Wales
open.
is hit
Destroy
in
the
the stern
non-base
below
quickly
the
before it can
waterline.
cause more trouble.
Ready for combat.
All her
Rifle
return
squad
fire
ready.
falls short.
Missile
Bismarck
squad
scores
ready for
another hit
combat.
on Prince of
Ready.
Wales, destroying her
Approaching target.
portside crane and service
Missile
boats.
squad ready for combat.
Prince Eugen fires her 18th salvo, scoring 2 more hits on Prince of Wales.
Unit under attack.
One hits the stern below the waterline.
Missile squad ready for
Another
combat.
shell hits the fourth 5.25-inch turret ammunition
Missile
squad
squad ready for
on the
combat.
port side.
Rifle squad ready.
Luckily, the shell fails to
Missile
explode.
squad ready for combat. Rifle
Prince of
squad ready.
Wales fires her 20th salvo from Y
Missile
turret
squad ready
at
for combat.
16,400 yards. But it's not much of a
Rifle squad
salvo.
ready for combat.
3 out of 4 guns are out of action, and
Rifle
only
squad
one
ready.
shell is
Squad
fired.
ready for combat.
The shot falls short of
Rifle
Bismarck's
squad
stern.
ready.
Low
Suddenly,
power.
the Germans change
Building.
course,
Rifle squad
making a
ready.
50-degree turn to port. Bismarck's captain, Lindemann, wants to finish
Missile
off the
squad-
Prince
Commander,
of
your
Wales.
base is low on power.
Lutyens
For
will
additional
not
power,
pursue the
build a
British
power plant
battleship.
from your production tab.
He doesn't know how many more
combat.
British ships are on their way to avenge the Hood.
Orca ready, sir.
What he does
Missile
know
squad ready
is
for
that Prince of
combat.
Wales has put a shot through Bismarck's bow. She is trailing a giant wave and has
Construction
lost
complete.
1,000 tons of precious fuel. His convoy hunting mission is over. His only option is to race for the safe
Missile
French
squad
port
ready for
of
combat.
Saint-Nazaire
the Nod base
and hope
quickly
he gets
before it
there
can
before
cause
the
more
British
trouble.
catch up with him.
Missile
To the
squad ready for
southeast,
combat.
on board the battleship King George V, Admiral
Missile squad
Todd
ready
was
for
already
combat.
assembling a strike force to find and destroy the
Missile
Bismarck.
squad ready for
The
combat.
cruiser Sheffield, the battle cruiser Renown,
Training.
Missile squad
the
ready
aircraft
for
carrier
combat.
Ark Royal, and 6 more
Rifle squad ready.
destroyers are
Missile
added
squad
to
ready for
Toby's fleet.
combat.
It is
Rifle
the
squad
largest
ready.
single fleet of the
Missile
war so
squad ready
far.
for combat. Rifle
6
squad ready.
battleships, 3 battle cruisers,
Training.
Missile squad
2
ready for
aircraft
combat.
carriers,
Rifle squad ready.
16 cruisers,
Firing rockets now,
33
sir.
Rifle
destroyers,
squad ready.
and 8
Yes, sir. Ready for orders.
submarines. In
Rifle
pursuit
squad ready.
of
Ready for
the
liftoff.
German battleships.
Insufficient funds.
Rifle squad ready.
Hundreds of epic battles await you. So, what are you waiting for? Thanks again, Call of War,
Squad
for
ready.
making this video
Unit
possible.
promoted.
Missile
Check
squad
out the
ready for
description.
combat.
Choose your country and
Rifle
fight
squad
your way
ready.
to victory.
Missile squad ready for
The
combat.
world is waiting for you to conquer it.
This way, rifle squad ready for combat. Squad ready.
The Lottery by Shirley Jackson is one of the most famous short stories of all time. It's especially memorable for its final paragraph. When it was first published in The New Yorker in 1948, a ton of readers unsubscribed and sent in a record amount of hate mail. It was also banned in South Africa for reasons that will become obvious later.
Destroy the
The
node
Lottery
base quickly
explores
before
the
it can
power
cause
of
more
tradition
trouble.
and the dangers that come with
Unit
that.
under
In this
attack.
video, I'll go over the plot, so it doesn't matter if you've read the story. Then I'll share my thoughts on the themes and ideas. It's a bright, sunny, beautiful summer day. The flowers are colorful, the
Tiberium.
grass is green, and everything is great. Everyone is gathering in the village square for the annual lottery. The lottery is held in pretty much every town on June 27. In big towns with lots of people, it can take 2 full days to run it. But in this village, they only have 300 people, so they can run the lottery in the morning and finish in time for lunch. The children are playing a fun game where they collect the best looking stones. They make piles of the smoothest, roundest stones and guard them from other children. The parents are chilling around, talking about their farms and sharing the latest gossip. Mr. Summers, who will be running the lottery, walks into the village square with a black wooden box. He runs the local coal business, and he's a really upstanding member of society. He hosts most of the village's communal activities, like square dancing and Halloween events, so of course he's also running the annual lottery. He places the black box on top of a 3-legged stool at the center of the square and starts mixing up the papers inside. The lottery is a really old and sacred tradition. The black box that they use is older than anyone in the village. Mr. Summers has been wanting to make a new box since this one is kind of falling apart, but no one wants to mess with the tradition. Supposedly, the current box was made out of pieces of the original box that the founders of the village used. One thing Mr. Summers did succeed in changing is that they used to use chips of wood, but now they use slips of paper, which are much easier to deal with. Even though the box is sacred, they
社会主义好，社会主义好，社会主义国家人民做得高，哒哒哒哒哒哒哒哒哒，梆梆梆梆梆梆梆梆梆。社会主义好，社会主义好，社会主义国家人民做得高，噔噔噔噔噔噔噔梆梆梆梆梆梆梆梆梆。
Psst, comrade, are you from the Ordnance Department?
Why, yes. I'm from the Type 56 Ordnance Department. But who are you? I'm the ghost of PLA Future. I have a very important message for the PLA from its future self in 1979. You have to listen to me very, very carefully. Wait a minute. How do I know you're not a spy? If you're really the ghost of PLA Future, how come you're speaking English? For the benefit of your audience, dumb fuck. Now hurry up and listen. I found a fleeting portal through the space-time continuum. On this side of the bamboo, it's 1979, and we, the PLA, are fighting a very hot war in Vietnam. Oh, my heart aches for our freedom-loving little brothers in Vietnam. To think that in 1979, they'll still be suffering invasion by those awful Americans. This time, it's not the Americans invading. Never mind. I need you to tell the Ordnance Bureau that by 1979, they have to stop sending us SKSs. No more semi-auto. We need AKs for every man. No more semi-auto. We need full auto AKs. Why, comrade, if it's full auto you want, I have good news for you. We just finished the plans for a cracking good weapon. It's called the Type 63 rifle. It's select fire, but it's much better than that terrible Type 56 AK without that burdensome magazine capacity, and it's extra long. So
the Crimean War is a fascinating conflict. For starters, you can see the impact of future technology on warfare, like railroads, field hospitals, the mini rifle, among others. However, outside of how the actual war was fought, I find it really interesting to revisit how did the war actually begin? By the 1850s, Europe had been at peace for 40 years following the Napoleonic Wars. So why did that great peace end for a war centered around the Black Sea region? Furthermore, how did two traditional rivals, in Great Britain and France, end up on the same side to fight Russia? And where do the Ottomans figure into all of this? That is what I'm going to cover in this long-winded and probably over-contextualized explanation of how did the Crimean War actually start. Before I go into the series of events which directly led to the Crimean War, I want to first give some context into the state of Europe over the course of the 1800s leading into the conflict. Specifically, I want to address each of the powers involved in the Crimean War, and talk about how they had evolved since the end of the Napoleonic Wars in 18...
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their forehead.
The 19th century scramble for Africa resulted in a patchwork of European colonies across the continent. But by the mid-20th century, that patchwork was coming undone as independence movements in those colonies came to prominence and power. While each of these regions and countries have their own moments of glory and defeat, the story of Congo often seemed like one of never-ending tragedy, exacerbated not only by colonial rule, but also the superpower rivalry after independence. I'm your host David, and this week we are going to look at Congolese independence and the subsequent Congo crisis, the first major sub-Saharan conflict of the post-war period. This is the Cold War. Have you ever thought about building a website, either for your business, your personal brand, or even just for fun? Well, of course you have. That's why you need to check out Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. Squarespace gives you a powerful...
For 4 years in the 1860s, the Civil War tore apart the United States. North against South. Brother against brother. Finally, on April 9th, 1865, in Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia.
Luke Beasley just gets torpedoed by Tim Pool because he pretends to know what he's talking about, and he gets absolutely trapped.
What do you mean, George Floyd?
What happened with George Floyd?
Are you going to make the fentanyl case?
I'm not going to make it. I'm going to ask you what you think happened.
You're the one who brought it up. I was just curious what your belief was about it.
Yeah.
I think that someone kneeled. I think
he brought it up, and so he asked you about it, and then you asked him back. And I'm just curious about what your opinion is on it.
I think you don't have one. I think you don't know what to say.
When trapped, he tries to act as though he's maintaining the frame with sarcasm.
If you can't define what
any data that stop it. If I
stop what define it, define it. Stop define right wing.
If I took the time to properly write out a definition.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jared Harper from the U.S. Army War College's Department of Military Strategy, Planning, and Operations. And today I'm going to talk to you about the PRC's approach to warfighting, and then apply this approach to scenarios by which the PRC might use this to seize Taiwan. Given the rising potential for great power conflict in the Indo-Pacific, this is an increasingly important topic. Although the PRC hasn't gone to full-scale war since 1979, they have a carefully crafted approach to warfighting, and have devoted extensive thought to the employment of the military instrument of power. So let's start with examining under what circumstances the PRC envisions using military force. The answer to the previous question is to ensure or achieve PRC core interests in accordance with its military strategy of active defense.
World War Z, an oral history of the zombie war. It goes by many names: the Crisis, the Dark Years, or the Walking Plague. And whilst it's been some years since victory was declared, the effects are still present across much of the globe. Global life expectancy is a mere fraction of what it was in pre-war times, and mass pollution blights the world with
In August 1945, nuclear war became a reality when the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on cities in Japan. 7 decades later, the arsenals of the great powers are 140,000 times more powerful. What would happen if a nuclear war broke out today?
This is a long-term, horrible catastrophe.
When Mortal Kombat X introduced the Combat Kids, they were meant to be the spark of the next generation of fighters for the series. Each a continuation of their family's legacy, each with their own goals and reasons to fight, and each with their own shoes to fill. There should be so much room for these characters to grow and find their place in the brutal world of Mortal Kombat. They each deserve to have unique, dramatic, and impactful stories that would resonate with anyone lucky enough to experience them. Takeda's quest for vengeance, Kung Jin's self-hatred, Jackie's broken family, and Cassie's exceedingly high expectations. These stories should have all been important, interesting, and memorable, paving the way to continue Mortal Kombat's plot through generations of fresh, new, and interesting characters. Unfortunately, these stories were half-baked and boring, culminating in a story that just feels empty, ultimately leaving us feeling empty.